Here's 3 reasons why your dog training is getting absolutely nowhere, and I'm also going to give you 3 tips on how you can get your dog through the difficult behaviours that you are currently dealing with. So, number 1 is that you are focusing all your effort onto training and completely ignoring lifestyle. There's a problem with this, okay? Different breeds have different needs. Dogs were bred for different purposes, and so if you totally ignore your dog's genetics, you're going to run into some behaviour issues. Now, something that I commonly see is that people will have high energy dogs and they'll be doing the right training, but they're not always doing it for long enough. So for example, I once had a client who had a really young spaniel. He was only 1 year old, full of energy, and I showed her some training exercises and I gave her basically an idea of like how long these walks should be and all that kind of thing. And in the next session she was saying, you know, like he's so difficult, I just can't get him to walk nicely. And I said, well, how long are you taking him out? And she told me she was taking him out twice a day for 5 minutes. I was like, look, that's not enough. We need to just up the amount of time that you're going on a walk. And I also implemented some games and things like that we could do so that we could get the dog to walk nicely and actually get the training somewhere. Okay, you have to take into account your dog's energy level. So if you're doing the right training but you're not doing it long enough, you're not going to see results. Okay, you need to get past the really hard part to get to the part where you can actually see some results. So if you have a high energy breed, you need to make sure that you're not just doing the right exercises, but you're doing it long enough. All right, you need to take that into consideration. And again, like I said, different breeds have different needs. They were bred for different purposes. So quite often people will get German Shepherds or Belgian Malleys, and they are absolutely lovely family dogs, but they were bred for work. They were bred to do certain things. So quite often they'll say, well, you know, I love my dog, but they keep ripping things up. They keep ripping up the sofa, ripping up the pillows and scratching at the door and things like that. And some of these dogs thrive in things like bite work. And it's not to say that you need to train them to be a protection dog or anything like that, but dogs like German Shepherds and Belgian Malleys, they were bred for that purpose. And so some of them absolutely love those kind of activities. They love doing bite work, okay? And this is the thing, if you satisfy that dog's drive in a healthy way, they're not going to take it out on your furniture, because all dogs have drive, right? How much they have differs from dog to dog, but if you don't satisfy the drive, you are not going to see much difference in your training. It needs to be a fine balance of training and lifestyle. So another example is, say, like, what was I going to say? What was it? Dachshunds and Jack Russells. They're a good example. So they were bred to flush out game, and when they got it, they have a tendency to want to rip it up. Okay, and quite often people will say, well, they rip up my pillows. Yeah, because they don't have an outlet. Most of the time I'm telling people, look, get them some cuddly toys and let them rip it up. I know it's inconvenient that they're gonna rip the stuffing out and your sitting room is gonna be a mess. Let it be a mess. Let them rip up the toy. Let them satisfy that drive, because you can easily pick up the pieces, put it back in the toy, sew it up and let them play with it again, okay? But you have to understand, different breeds have different needs and they have different drives. It means that you need to take that into account for their lifestyle and not just focus completely on training, because if you're only going to focus on training, you're going to fall short. So on to number 2. So a lot of people will watch random things on YouTube and Facebook, and quite often I see people using the wrong tool and the wrong training method, or they have the right tool but they're not using the right training method, or the other way around, okay? But either way, you need the right thing for your dog. I've had plenty of clients that have come to me and their dog is pulling on the leash and they bought an anti-pull harness. And the truth is, every time they get it out, their dog just bolts. They just run away. They don't want to go out. And it's because the dog finds it uncomfortable. All right, you need a tool that is comfortable for your dog, but you need the right training method that also suits your dog. And you've probably heard of the saying, horses for courses, right? They're just as individual as you. You have your likes and dislikes, and so do dogs. So if you're using the wrong tool that isn't comfortable, and you're using a training method that also doesn't suit your dog, you're going to get nowhere. All right, so my advice for that is actually to get a professional who has helped people with the issues that you're seeing with your dog, because we can come in and say, right, okay, let's do this, this and this, and then bam, you're going to see results. But if you're just putting random things together, you're going to have a lot of trial and error, and you might actually pick the right training exercise, but you might be using the wrong tool, and that might be what's holding you back. So again, it's a fine balance. Things need to be in the right place, and if one thing just isn't there, you're not going to see results. So that was number 2. Number 3 is being consistent. This is something that I find people are struggling a lot with these days, because we all have such busy lives, but you need to carve out time to be consistent. Now, one of the things that people struggle with is leash walking exercises. So quite often people will do training exercises for like the first 5 minutes of their walk, and then they'll go, oh, I can't be bothered with this. Normally because they've had a bad day at work and they just can't be bothered with it in general. But the problem is, if you take your dog out twice a day and you're only doing leash training exercises for the first 5 minutes, that means for the next like 25 minutes or so, your dog's pulling to the end of that leash. You're not going to see any kind of positive result when you're allowing the dog to carry on the behaviour that you don't want them to do. Another area that people tend to struggle to be consistent with is when they leave the house, their dog just bolts out the door. Okay, and I'm constantly telling my clients, I know it's inconvenient, I know it takes up loads of time, all right, but you need to teach your dog to wait at the door and either let you go first or walk with you, and start every walk like that. Do not go out the house until they give you that behavior, because if 9 times out of 10 they can just bolt through that door, it doesn't matter that you train them like 1 out of 10 times, they're going to go with what they normally do. Because here's the thing, dogs do not see a problem with pulling on the leash. They don't see a problem with bolting out the door. And so those things are not something that the dog thinks, well, I need to stop doing that, because they don't see a problem with it. In fact, they think that it's getting them what they want quicker, which is to get out the house quicker, or to pull you over so they can get to that really interesting smell quicker. So we have to be consistent with our training so that they start to understand what is expected, and so that becomes a new default setting. All right, you want to pattern things so much that your dog just does it instantly. They don't think about it anymore because they're so used to doing it. But you have to be consistent with that. All right, if you catch yourself, right, and you say, right, okay, well, I did some training on Monday, right, took my dog out, did some training, and if you catch yourself on Thursday saying, I haven't done any of this since Monday, guess what? The training you did on Monday didn't really matter, because you have a couple of days in between where you didn't do any training. So you have to be consistent even when you don't want to be. And I know it's not what you want to hear, okay, but I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what you need to hear, which is if you're not consistent with your training, you're not going to see any results. You need to show up even when you don't want to show up, because that's the reality. All right, I'm not singing and dancing on the internet like some other dog trainers telling you that it's always sunshine and rainbows, it's always fun, everything's to do with games. It's not. I'm not going to lie to you, it's not. Dog training can be hard, it can be tedious, but it's worth it. All right, if you put the effort in now, because most of the people who I help have young dogs, right? They're only like 1 or 2 years old. So if you put the effort in now, then that means that you're going to have a great dog for like 10 plus years that you don't have to worry about, because you went in hard and heavy on the training in the beginning. Okay, so it's difficult to be consistent, but you need to be, because if you're not going to get the result. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Before I love you and leave you, I just want to let you guys know that at the end of April, we're going to have a subscription page available. So on that page, you're going to get access to exclusive training videos, tutorials, education videos, and we're going to have live Q&As on there as well. So we do have a waiting list. If you would like to be added to the waiting list, either put waiting list in the comments of this video and we'll send you the invite, or you can send us a message saying waiting list, and we'll put you on our list and you'll be the first to know when it gets launched. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got a lot out of it. The other thing that I want to mention before I go is that on the 4th of March at 7:30 p.m. I'm going to be doing a live Q&A session. It is going to be invite only. So basically, if you're on the fence with dog training, this is going to be great for you, because we help a lot of people who have already been to other dog trainers. They've already spent a lot of money, it hasn't worked, and now they're skeptical. And I want you to feel like you've made the right choice. So if you're on the fence and you're thinking about getting training sessions with us, feel free to just let us know, and we'll send you an invite link to that. The reason that it's going to be on Zoom is because quite often people will tell me in consultations that they feel really embarrassed about their dog's behaviour. So I wanted to do a private Q&A on Zoom so that you are basically in the same environment with lots of other people in the same boat as you. You've all got dogs that are behaving pretty badly. You've all got stuff that you want to work on, and there's no shame whatsoever. You can ask me your questions. You don't need to have a Zoom account, okay? You can just log in and all that'll come up is your first name. You don't have to put your video on. You don't even have to put your microphone on. You can just type in your questions. Nothing is a silly question, okay? I'm here to answer questions. So if you'd like to join that, please let us know, and we will send you the private invite link for that private Q&A session. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got a lot out of it. We're going to be having another live video like this next week on Monday at 7:30. So hopefully I'll see you guys next week.